All right, so tonight we are discussing African American men's experience in K-12. One, thank you for coming. We are happy that you're here. Can you introduce yourselves by simply telling us your name, your career choice, and your professional title? Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. My name is Lonnie Westerfield, entrepreneur, 28 years, and CEO of the company.
Good evening. My name is Ty Lewis. I'm in the financial industry, work at Classy Bank Trust, and I work as a management trainee.
Hello, my name is Carl Hampton, safety engineer. I am safety and training manager at John Deere.
Hello to all, my name is Ashley Harris, and I am a community activist and a lifelong learner.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So my name is Aubrey Barnes, as my students call me Mr. Obbs. My career choice, it all encapsulates under being creative. I do stuff as an active musician. I write books as well, and also teach through my nonprofit as well. My professional title is a director of Young Lions World, which is a nonprofit that focuses on literary art for performance and social emotional needs, and creative within poetry and writing as well.
My name is Keith Morton. I'm a barber at Something Different.
My name is Tracy Pugh. I'm a school board member of Rock Island Middle School District. I'm also a sergeant, hostage negotiator for the state of Illinois.
Good evening. My name is Jaron Williams. I'm an educator and a coach. I teach freshman English at Rock Island High School. I'm the boys' head cross country coach, and I'm on the coaching staff for track and field.
Okay, thank you guys. I am Dr. Yolanda Granberry Pugh, and this event is being hosted tonight by the Rock Island County NAACP, the African American Community Outreach Center, and the African American Heritage Club at Rock Island High School. This is Dr. LaShante Williams, who is also hosting the event with us this evening. And the president of the African American Heritage Club is actually sitting way in the back. Her name is Shy Mitchell. So we represent the three organizations that put this event together tonight. All right, so first set of questions, okay? We are going to talk about your kindergarten through sixth grade experience. Questions. So the very first question is, describe your interaction with your teachers. Things that you can think about were they nice or mean? Did they make you feel welcome in their classroom, comfortable in their classroom? Is there anything memorable about the way they taught you? Did their methods of teaching work for you? Inspire you to stay in school, make you want to leave school? Did you get kicked out of class? A few times or a lot. And do you know why? If you were kicked out of class, do you know why? And then anything else you want to share? Those are the things that I want you to think about. But I may revisit some of those questions, okay?
Thank you, Lonnie Westerfield. I was born and raised in the Quad Cities. I went to my elementary school was Lincoln Elementary School, and right now it's a very non-profit building that turned into a non-profit organization for black entrepreneurs and do a lot of community stuff. When Yolanda saw me this, I'm like, well, I don't remember. I'm kind of old. When I go back and thinking about the school, we used to always walk to school. Wasn't no bus or anything like that. I've never been taken to school. We walked to school every school I went to. School was fun to me. We used to always walk and socialize with the kids, and we get to school. I kicked out of school plenty of times. I remember having a lot of African American teachers and principals during my time. not just African American teachers, even in our community, there was a lot of African American, from businesses to everything when I was coming up. I was driving my kids, I was privileged to be able to experience that. That was a big part of my life that changed me who I am today. I remember teachers believing in me. So once I go to school and I will pay attention, I had no problem with good grades, but I was what they called back in the day a class clown. I did some things that I wouldn't even want to describe to you today. I was looking for some kind of attention. And by being a class clown, I was able to get that attention that I needed. Further in life, I'll describe to you later on how I learned how to get attention in different ways. But at that moment, that's what I knew, and that's what I knew how to do if I could be a fool. And they give me attention, and I was a class clown. And also what I did at school, I used to sell candy bars, bubblegum, at an early age. So I was actually on my entrepreneurship at that moment, As far as my counselors and principals, I remember plenty of times them coming to my mother and sitting down at our table and eating dinner with us. And we're talking about greens and cornbread, okay? So those are experiences that I experienced, and that gave me a sense of, from these teachers, they really wanted me to do better. They took their time out, they had a personal relationship that they created with my family, and they really believed in me, that Lonnie, there's something about you, and they never gave up on me. And to this day, I have teachers right now that shop at my business. And so that's very rewarding. Thank you, Lonnie.
Ty Lewis here. So I went to school in elementary school in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia. Stone Mountain to be exact, about 20 minutes from the Atlanta area. Moved up to the Quad Cities, moved up to Rock Island in 2013. But my experience, so I went to a majority Black elementary school, and I think that very much helped me out. Like I said, seeing counselors, seeing the principal, seeing teachers that were my skin color, going to school with people that looked like me. So I think that helped me. Looking back now, realizing like I had people around me that were my age, that were my skin color, counselors, like I said, counselors, teachers that looked like me. And they took their time with me. They really, took their time to make sure that the whole class understood what was going on. Made sure everyone was reading, everyone had a kind of turn if they asked a question. And I think that, when we're looking at middle school and going to high school and college and whatnot, that allowed me to grow and realize, hey, that's what I expected when I got to the next level. I'm not saying it happened like that, but I think when we're looking at the society now as far as African American males, especially in Rock Island, I think, you don't see a lot of teachers that are African American, and when you talk about African American males, African male teachers. I'm fortunate to have that when I grew up in elementary, but when I did move up to Rock Island high school, middle school, high school, I didn't see that a lot. And I think that, when we're talking about males, that's what we need to see that. We need to see a male figure, right? That's in the home, in the classroom, extracurriculars. We need to see that. And I think in society now, especially around here, a lot of males around here, they're only part seeing that sports. Maybe they're football coach, maybe they're basketball coach, track coach. But as far as teachers, we're not seeing a lot of that. But as far as elementary, like I said, they took their time. I think I was the youngest on the panel, graduated 2018 from high school, so it wasn't, compared to some others, it wasn't that long ago. But I do think, looking back, they took their time. That wasn't one thing, they took their time. And they also encouraged you to, education. All the teachers had degrees, and I remember seeing it in the classroom. Seeing their degree, where they went to school, right? You know, I was in Georgia, so whether Georgia State, University of Georgia, you got the senior degree, and someone that had the same skin color as you. So I remember that, and I think that helped me when I got to the next level, like I said, middle school, high school. Like, hey, I had teachers that went through this process that looked like me, and we're pretty going through the other questions when we get to the parents and stuff, but the main thing was I got to see people that looked like me, my skin color, you know, truly helped me, you know, later on.
I think that's the nicest way that we've been called. Carl Lampkin, to piggyback off of Ty, just to kind of touch on my K through 6 experience. I started at Hawthorne Urban until the middle part of 2nd grade, and then our family moved to Milan. So that's a transition, right? I was it as far as my class, so that's a different set of challenges within itself. And Ty mentioned how there aren't a lot of black males as teachers. In my case, I was looking for any familiar face that I could kind of find and embrace, and that happened. Again, starting at Hawthorne with Dr. Davis, and transitioning to Jefferson and Milan with his wife, Reese Davis, who made that transition a lot easier for me. As far as teachers at that school, there was a behavior expectation, and I wouldn't say they were mean or nice. They just had an expectation. You were expected to behave a certain way, come to learn, come prepared. And that helped me progress as a student amid all the other challenges that I had. Besides Mrs. Davis, and I credit her for helping me through that period. She's one of the more impactful teachers that I've had, and then later on in high school, Dr. Peterson was another. So my experience was definitely positive, K through 6, and then junior high at Edison, where I kind of rejoined my peers, so to speak, on a daily basis, and then transitioning to the high school. So it's a small part of my story.
Hello all, my name is Ashley Harris, and my K through 6th grade experience, it was a tale of two stories. I would like to start by saying, I was raised as an only child. So when I first hit the school scene, I had to juggle a few things because my natural personality was being a class clown. And, with that, the social side of learning came before the actual grades and everything. And not all times people take that into account, especially with the younger children. I heard Dr. Yolanda mention that a lot of young black boys end up in her office due to behavior issues. That may not be behavior issues, just may not be, suitable for, that classroom structure. And I'm a living testament to that. 1st grade through 3rd grade, I struggled. Like I said, I was more into learning about people around me. That was my first time being encountered in the world. So that was my assignment. That was my learning curve as far as that. So it was a struggle 1st through 3rd grade. I was raised by pretty much my whole village, but I was raised by grown folks. I was raised by, my grandparents. And they were from the South, are from the South, and their education level was not up to par by any means, but they thrived in other areas. They thrived in structure, in raising children. So my talents and everything that progressed to be good about me came more so from structure than early childhood learning. Now, after the 3rd grade, in 4th grade, I went to live with my mom in Michigan. And that's where, educational-wise, that's where things turn the corner for me. You know, one difference between the schoolings there and here is in Michigan, they had advanced classes, even in elementary. And what that did was it allowed me to get away from the kids that were excelling just so I can be, get more attention to learn the building blocks of learning. You know, I've never lacked intelligence. You know, I've never been an idiot by any means, but I just needed, you know, a different style of teaching. You know, I needed to learn those building blocks. And when I went to Michigan, that's exactly what happened. You know, my mom got me a tutor. She took it upon herself to give me a tutor. And that man sat me down and he broke it down in my language. And I'm in 4th grade and he was speaking, highly educated man, and he was speaking my language. That changed my life. That moment right there, it changed my life. So shortly thereafter, you know, I came back here to Rock Island in the 5th and the 6th grade, and in addition to being a class clown, you know, I was at the top of the class. You know, I was at the top of the class, and that was all, you know, still being in the realm of uneducated people. So what I'm speaking on mostly is the structure that went behind setting me straight. But I'll speak on that more later on.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, just like the rest of the group, I can't remember specific moments with elementary K through 6, just because that's kind of a far stretch back. But I can remember what made me feel welcomed and unwelcomed within classroom settings. So the school that I went to West Man Choice School, which was the name at the moment, and I went there for a majority of my K through 6 experience. But one teacher that I remember who did a really good job, and I'm gonna just mention her by name because of like the good job that she did, who did a good job with making me feel welcome in the classroom was Mrs. Ellis. She just did a good job of setting the right kind of culture in the classroom that made you feel welcome. You know, from the moment you walked in, from whether you got a question right, whether you got it completely wrong, her support was always there. She showed that, like, with the culture that she set, and I feel like the fact that she's able to do that non-verbally kind of spoke to her kind of a skill set as an educator, you know. The fact that, like, I can remember moments where, like, she didn't have to say anything, I knew I was welcome in her classroom. I think that was a big thing that really made me feel welcome in her classroom. And just even the ways of just remembering moments where she would smile at me, maybe when I got a question right, or I might have just got it wrong too, but I feel like that just shows her ability of being able to make me feel welcome in that classroom setting, because when you feel welcome in the classroom setting, that's where your academic kind of like learning, kind of like excels a little bit more. You can't really learn in a place where you don't feel unwelcomed at. And I think that kind of like was kind of the issue I had. I should say issue, but what kind of made me feel unwelcome in Miss T and Miss A's class. We'll mention just by letter. But and learning in their spaces from a verbal and nonverbal perspective, I just didn't feel welcome. I can remember moments where Miss Lloyd, I remember being a kid, being somebody who just liked reading, being in books. I was reading a book in her classroom at possibly an inappropriate time, you know. But as an educator, you're kind of taught how to handle those moments. And I feel like she handled that in a way that kind of like impacted me, made me feel unwelcome by throwing myself away in the trash can. You know, something that didn't belong to her. You know, that right there was kind of something that makes you feel unwelcome and unwilling to learn in the classroom, something like that, you know. And the other teacher, I remember moments like this, my mom was telling me this just a couple years ago, but because I wasn't like very receptive to her teaching style, she would take that as me being lazy or someone who needed to be put in special ed settings. And that's what she told my mom, that I was just lazy or needed to take a special needs test, and mind you, they did that, and I was fine. Which kind of speaks to how instead this educator could have looked back and said, okay, what can I do to keep this student's attention if I think they're quote unquote lazy or not paying attention, you know? But even with that said, like how they kind of set the culture of the classroom with me, kind of go to a space of not feeling unwelcome, and again, like in those spaces you don't really learn like you're supposed to, so yeah.
My name is Keith Lawrence. I'm actually going to break it down K through 6 for y'all. Kindergarten I had Miss Shedd, I love Miss Shedd. I actually went to Grant Intenstive Basic School, first through fourth. Kindergarten, her welcome, she was a loving woman, an elder, and she didn't play. First grade, I had Miss Niemeyer. She was a beautiful teacher as well, very inviting, very on. She was sweet. Midway through, we switched because she had her baby. Then we had Miss Johnson, who was an African American woman, and she was incredible. I felt like she came and really switched the atmosphere as far as for the African American kids in the classroom. It was just different. Second grade, I had Miss Avery. She was a phenomenal, very strict, very personable person. She had a good relationship with my mom. She was just a very beautiful, she was sweet, yeah. Third grade, I had Mr. Johnson. He was an African-American teacher as well, so first, second, third grade, I was blessed enough for that. He was incredible. He was incredible, good dude. He was very personable as well. He was the first teacher that actually took notice of me being a little bit different. But it was special. He was a good guy. A lot of principles, bodies that I still hold from him to this day. Fourth grade, I had, actually don't remember. Fourth grade was kind of like a blur. It was a transition of Grant shut down. So now we had to switch from Grant and we had to go to Lincoln, which would be called Intermediate Academy. Fifth and sixth grade, I had the same teacher, Jason Foster, another African-American teacher, a phenomenal dude, one of the flyest teachers you have ever seen. But he was really a personable person as well. He was very in your business, wanted to know, seeing if you were having a bad day, wanted to try to see if he could make your day a little bit better. So I do think there was a difference when it came down to African-American teachers and Caucasian teachers, but I do believe that, if we can get some more African-American in our schools to be more personable, to understand where the kids are coming from, and like you said, the difference in a kid acting out and a kid wanting attention because they're lacking that from the home. I do think a lot of the behavior issue stems from the home, but if we can get them young, we can grow them, we can get them in the right direction and have them tunnel vision. Yes.
I remember. K-6 for me, I'm the youngest of 9 in the family, so I was a baby. I always liked playing, I always liked getting the attention because I got it from everybody at home. Because I was the baby. So when I got to school, as I can remember, math always been good. I never had no issue that was reading. I was never interested in what we read. It never inspired me to start learning how to read and read better when I was K-6. I just had no will to read what they wanted me to read. It didn't have anything to do with me. I never could pick out something in there that's like, ooh, that's me right there. I'm gonna learn that. That's who I'm gonna be. So with reading, I struggled in K-6 in times. Moved from Mississippi to Davenport, I went to Jefferson Elementary. I cannot remember this lady's name, but she used to come up to Jefferson Elementary with a black retired teacher. And she would pull the kids out of class who had trouble reading. And she would ask you, what do you want to read? What book do you want? And when I would tell her, she brought those books back, and that's how she helped me with my reading to catch up with all the rest of the students. Because I felt like she really cared about me learning. She wanted me to learn something. It wasn't, I'm trying to, as a black student, I felt like there was nothing in the school that interested me if I didn't play sports. And at Jefferson back then, we had sports in the elementary. And my older brothers and sisters, we were all competitive. We all played sports. and stuff like that. And sports is all I had to look for to want to do my work, because you had to have a certain grade on average to play. But I was never interested in the work and stuff like that. No, I felt like they didn't care if I wasn't interested in the work, or if it was something that didn't interest me. It was the curriculum. That's what they had to teach, and that's what you was gonna learn. But you did have those certain teachers that went out of their way to make sure that they gave you what you wanted to learn, and to help push you to that certain level. And plus, I grew up with the paddle in school. I had a teacher who had holes in her paddle. You could hear a whistle, it was coming towards your butt. I needed a stronger teacher. I didn't need a teacher who wanted to be my friend and buddy. You know, I needed that teacher who was like my mom, who was very strong and wanted to help me teach in K through 6. And I know it's different for all of us, but I just didn't feel like it was there for me. There was nothing there. Not most people would do.
Jaron Williams. I had a pretty wonderful K through 6 experience as a student. I have to shout out my mother, who just encouraged and supported me as much as she could when I was young. As far back as I can remember, I just loved reading. I loved big words. I was the oldest of 4 kids, so it was one of those things. I went to Rainbow Skip Along from preschool, and then we started school at Ridgewood and East Moline. So I don't remember any of my teachers' names, but I remember being encouraged. I remember recess. I just remember loving being at school, being with my friends, being in class, learning. If I knew the answer, I raised my hand. I never felt like I was trying to show out. I just felt like that was where I was supposed to be. My mother bought her first home in Rock Island down on 7th Street during 2nd grade, so we moved and I went to Grant Elementary School from 2nd to 6th grade. And while I was there, I just thought if you knew the answer, you're supposed to raise your hand and do all these things. And so I felt like my teachers were relatively encouraging, but it actually affected my social relationships, because I think sometimes my peers thought I was like trying to show out and be the teacher's pet. And I promise I wasn't trying to do that, as I remember my experience. But I just stayed the course because, again, I love reading. I liked writing. I didn't mind math. School seemed kind of easy to me. So I remember starting 3rd grade, there was a African-American teacher next door. I didn't have her. Her name was Mrs. Veer, so I would see her, but I didn't have her. Mrs. Love was my 4th grade teacher, and she was really encouraging to me. And I learned some things through creative writing with her. And so 4th, 5th, and 6th grades, I had teachers who could see that I needed to be challenged. And I don't remember there being a talented and gifted program, but I remember that they challenged me to do things, so I wasn't just sitting there, I wasn't bored, I wasn't spinning my wheels. From 4th grade, in 4th grade and 5th grade, I did reading classes with the grades ahead of me, so that I could challenge myself. And then when I did 6th grade, I kind of just, I don't want to say I did my own thing, but it was kind of like that. So that they saw talent there, and they tried to do what they could with the talent there. I didn't have a male teacher until 5th grade. He was white, but his name was Mr. Baldridge. And then Mrs. Haynes, Gloria Haynes, taught 6th grade. I had her for reading when I was in 4th grade, but I had Mr. Tipton when I was in 6th grade. So there were those 2 African Americans in the building. I remember when I was there, Mr. Robert Hartburn came and became our principal sometime around 4th grade or 5th grade. There was a different principal, Mr. Denton, before that. So there were a handful of African Americans, but I will say, in my recollection, I just always felt encouraged as a student. So.
Thank you. Okay, so we're gonna switch 7th to 12th grade. But the questions are the same, okay? So once again, describe your interactions with your teachers. Were they nice, mean, or any other disposition? Did they make you feel welcome in their classroom, comfortable in their classroom? Is there anything memorable about the way they taught you? Did their methods of teaching work for you, inspire you to stay in school, make you want to leave school? Did you get kicked out of class? How often? Why? Or anything else that you want to share about 7th through 12th grade? We'll start with you, Mr. Williams.
Jaron Williams. So it's a tale of two students. Because of my experience as an elementary school student, I remember going through some things, adolescence. And so when I got to 7th grade, for the reasons that I didn't want to be like a social outcast, I decided I needed to kind of fit in with my peers. And so I made really poor choices. When I got to junior high, I went to Edison Junior High. And I tell students or anybody I'm talking about my life experience to, the thing that kind of got me through was that I could do school. While I never got in trouble in elementary school, that is true, I stayed in trouble in junior high, and it was mostly because of my mouth. So I would talk back and get detentions, and you would accumulate so many detentions and they would suspend you. So I was kind of trying to be slick about that, making sure my mother didn't know that her good student was making poor choices in junior high, and got caught up and remembered that at one point when the gig was up, I had to go back to school with my mom, who was blindsided by all the information about how many times I had been in detention, how many times I had been suspended. They didn't know what to do with us. They were thinking about holding us back, and I was just sure my mom was having no parts of that. So I looked at her when the assistant principal at the time was like, "We're frustrated, this is what we think we're gonna do." And when he presented the option of how we're gonna hold him back, I just knew my mom was gonna let him have it. My mom, who's quiet, was like, "Hold him back." And I was stunned, because that was the first time, but it makes sense now, as an adult I can reflect on her being disappointed, which she should have been. And so instead of yelling at me, I remember that it took a few days for her to actually talk to me, which was probably the best punishment, because I was like, "Are you gonna yell at me? What's gonna happen?" And she just was like, "I don't know you." And so I had to kind of get back into figuring out how to do school and how to be a good person. The thing that did save me in junior high and kind of worked me through the high school years was sports. You know, I was on the track team, and like I said, I was looking for my place socially. And so here I am getting all this trouble, and the track coach, Bill Greathouse, was an awesome man, great positive energy. He didn't know me, I didn't know him first semester, so here I am accumulating all these detentions, because you would get the detentions and then they would have to suspend you. And so when he got wind of what was happening, it was about the middle of the 7th grade season, and he's like, "Hey, you know, if you get suspended again, I have to kick you off the team." And I was like, "Okay, I got like 5 days left on the team then." So, which was unfortunate, but you know, that was nobody's fault but my own, and it kind of helped me think, okay, well, I don't know if school's important to me like it should be, but I love track, and I refuse to lose that opportunity again. So instead of talking back to teachers so much, still trying to figure out how to navigate that, I'm gonna sit down and be quiet on my own terms, because I don't get kicked off the track team. I got to high school, still social in 9th grade, socially awkward, trying to find my place at Rock Island High School, and it took a couple of years. When I got to high school, there was no question I was going to graduate from high school, but I didn't know what I was going to do after that. And so junior year, things positively started happening in track for me, and luckily I did school well enough that I was able to earn a scholarship to Southern Illinois University, which is why we're at track and field, but I will give the microphone up now. Sports.
Tracy Pugh. Junior high school, once I got better with my reading, school became simple to me. It was easy, it was too easy. I've always got along with everybody. I never had any issues. From 7th to 12th grade, I never got any fights, because I was everybody's friend. You know, I hung out with the different crowds, didn't matter what. But sports also helped me with my communication skills and my social skills, getting to learn different people. You know, going to different people's houses and getting to learn who they were, and, you know, how they were raised and things like that. And once I realized that you were good at sports, we were treated different in school. And after junior high school, when we was winning city championship every year, I was one of the best on the team. When I got to Central, it was a whole different mind frame. I was a blue chip All-American, All-State every year. Every sport I did, breaking records, I still have them at Central. And I noticed that I could do no wrong. I was never a bad kid, but people looked at me different. The teachers, the students, the administrators, everybody looked at me different. You know, had kids in the mall asking for my autograph. and stuff like that. And it built my confidence and things like that. But at the same time, I thought that's all it was. You know, I thought that's what a black male was supposed to be doing. You know, I'm a sports type of man. You know, I'm famous now and stuff like that. So I took advantage of being that athlete in high school. You know, I still graduated high school with over a 3.0. I never had trouble with school, but I felt like being an athlete stopped me from reaching for other things. Because I felt like I don't need to go no further. Everybody knows who I am in high school. You know. So my role model was my older brother. He was an all-state football player in Mississippi. All my role models were athletes. I only had an A plan. I didn't have a B plan or a C plan. My A plan was to go to college, go to pros. That was it. I thought that's what I was supposed to do, being a black man. I didn't think I was supposed to, you know, get a degree in criminal justice like I have now. I didn't think I was supposed to go push for other educational things like I had. Because people treated me different for being an athlete. I didn't get in trouble. The teacher gave me a D, she was in trouble. I had to play. There would be no arguments about me playing and stuff. If she wanted to hold me back, the principal went and talked to her. I knew I had that power in that classroom to the point where I remember breaking the teacher down and she would never talk to me again because she tried to give me an F and I wasn't going to be able to play. And it was more important for me to play than to pass her grade. And I feel like I loved it in high school, but as I sit back and look at it now, it held me back from reaching for other things. But I thought that's all I was supposed to do.
Key points. 7 through 12, it was it was a big adjustment. You know, at home, my mom allowed her sister and her kids to move in, so I was really acting out. I was cutting up every which way. Even when I wasn't trying to be seen, I was seen. I do believe that sometimes we leave bad taste in teachers' mouths. So when they get together on Wednesdays, they talk about one student, and that student becomes a target at times. And I was that target. You know, I remember having teachers that actually understood my worth, who knew that I was just going through certain things that would actually sit me down. You know, Dr. Granberry, you yourself was one of those teachers, I should say. And you taught me a valuable lesson one time. You kicked me out of class for like a month. I was not able to come to your classroom. I had to go to the library every single day, English 10th grade year. But you taught me, you know, and it actually helped me in the long haul. Yeah, 7 through 12 was really class accomplished. Like, then you begin to target. So even on the days where you're not doing anything, or, you know what I'm saying, if the teacher's having a bad day, you're an easy target. Go ahead, go get it. But there were those certain teachers that were willing to sacrifice, you know what I'm saying, willing to really put in the work to make you a better individual. My grades dropped, and it just kept dropping. I didn't care anymore. You know, when you feel like you're misunderstood, I feel like it's hard for people to really to hear where you're coming from. Yeah.
So 7 to 12, I attended junior high, Washington Junior High School. I saw my name on one of those little plaques for doing 3 sports in 7th and 8th grade. But Rocky is also where I attended freshman through senior year. I'm also remember my experience in high school over what I remember junior high, but the teachers that I remember who did well, who I felt comfortable with were, again, with them being positive, I'll mention their names, Ms. Johnson, Mr. Gustafson, and Mr. Churchill, each for different reasons. Ms. Johnson was just one who just being professional, she also had to like be human in the classroom and show us that she's still a person, which I think is like important as an educator. My dad comes from somebody who was an educator at a behavior school too, so I don't say that as like outsider looking in. I say it as an educator myself. But the fact that she was able to still also like be professional, be like, you know, at the end of the day, I'm human, I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm still gonna do work. Like I really respected that about her in her classroom. Mr. Gustafson, he just always invited us into a space to be creative, and he was passionate about it, being somebody who's a creative now for their career, like a paid career now. He was one who always kind of like instilled being creative, gave that invitation to be creative now towards what I do as a poet, author, and everything that I do, which is important, you know, very important. And Churchill, he was just a big motivator. He was just gonna motivate the students and athletes as well. Just like Tracy and Jared, I myself was an athlete in cross country and track from junior high all the way out to college, and then I coached for a couple years as well. So sports was a big part of my life as well. Churchill being someone who knew that, he always motivated me, knowing that I had interests outside of like PE, and always kind of like reminded me of my goals, asked me about my goals, was just super invested in my life as an athlete. When it came to educators that kept me like encouraged to stay in school, I don't think there was as good as the educators I had. I don't think there was one that necessarily made me like stay in school, because again, just like Tracy kind of mentioned, my goal was just stay in sports, and whatever I needed to do to stay above that line to be in sports, I would do. Like I didn't really like excel, but just stay exactly where I needed to do, just so I knew I could run that track meet or cross country meet later that week. You know, I think that's something that's it's nuanced. You know, I think just the fact that I had that as a goal, something that I had as an interest. I believe that was just a conduit in which educators kind of used to kind of motivate me to do certain things, excel at certain things. When it came to educators who did make me feel safe in their room, there was Mr. T, who always like cussed in his room at us, like verbally would use cuss words at us, which it's each his own, but I don't think you should do that as an educator. There'd be someone who's an educator. I still think it's a move. And another educator who always had an issue with me, again, being a class clown. We'll finish that story. We won't say time stamp.
Thank you. Ashley Harris. Yeah, you know, my 7th through 12th grade experience, it was a good experience. First I want to go back to my 6th grade year, because I mentioned that I had came back from Michigan. I struggled earlier in elementary, and then my Michigan experience kind of turned my education life around. So when I got back here to Rock Island, going to Francis Willard in the 6th grade, I do want to bring this up, that Mr. Good, Willis Good, was one of the best teachers that I ever had. You know, one time for a school project, I made an explosive device. It was actually like an M90. And, you know, nowadays that would be a whole nother story. But back then I made it for a school project, and I didn't get in trouble, but he called my mom, and he had a conversation with my mom about it. And, you know, from that alone kind of scared me a little bit. But to make long story short, I got an A for the project, and I never had to ignite it. And, you know, sometimes I wonder if it would have went off or not. But anyway, you know, from that, you know, I felt undefeated. I got confidence from that. And Mr. Good was the type that recognized the talents. You know, as far as recognized talents, he was ahead of his time. And that's one of the only reasons why I'm going back to 6th grade. And he prepared us, all of us, for junior high. And when I got to junior high, it was a different experience. Like me coming into school for the first time, as an only child, junior high was the first chance to where different elementaries met up there. So my social curve started all over again. I had to, you know, reestablish myself as, you know, the guy or the class clown or that certain type of personality. So initially in 7th grade, you know, I struggled a little bit, but that's where Miss Bobby Lestraps came in. You know, she was a guidance counselor at Edison Junior High, and she had the skills and the personality to be all up in your mix. And for those of us that didn't have structure at home, Bobby Lestraps was that glue. She was that parent there at school. And, you know, I'm speaking about a strong Black woman. And she specialized in young Black males. And I do want to bring that up now. Where I started having fun, where I put everything together in junior high, when I started having fun in school, I'll tell you this quick story. When I first got there, it was the first time we were going to different classes, and we got our list of schedules. And as I've said 3 or 4 times tonight, you know, my name is Ashley. So initially, I was placed in an all-girls gym class for the first couple of days. You know, I show up at gym, and I'm the only boy in there. And you know, it was hilarious. You know, it was something that I would never forget, and probably other females in the class would never forget. But anyway, and instead of crushing me, you know, luckily I had the personality that took that and ran with it. And that was when I started to have fun in school. That's when I started to be like, you know what, it's more to it than just 2 + 2. That gave me motivation, you know, to excel. Because, you know, just like Mr. Pugh, I've always been an athlete. You know, I've always loved competition. And that competition helped me along with my structure to get along through school. You know, in addition to having to have a certain grade point average to participate. You know, in addition to I'm learning how to listen to instruction from a coach, from other players, having to be somewhere on time, you know, building brotherhoods. So my athletic career was just a cherry on top, you know, and it got me through, you know, a lot of things during school. When I entered high school, you know, the same thing. I had to, you know, it took a small amount of time to, you know, establish the run, I'll say. And I did that, and that's when the fun continued, because I mentioned that I was raised as an only child. So my childhood, my adolescence, it was great. It was great, you know, materialistic wise, it was, you know, through the roof. You know, I had a vehicle, I had. I'm sorry. All right, I'll wrap it up. But anyway, one class in my high school career that changed my life around as well was Mr. Ed Lillis, and he taught English, and he taught a different class of compositions, and that gave me a love for words as well. And from that, I've been trying to build on those words. I too like big words. I like small words. I like putting words together. And qualities like that can help you along education-wise and even after that. Thank you.
That's gonna be tough to follow. It's supposed to be Wednesday, all girl gym class. Feels like I'm being set up.
We all have our own unique experiences. Yes.
Carl Lampkin. So the transition from 6th grade to 7th through 12, from Mrs. Davis to a teacher, Mrs. Heitman, who was an English teacher. Both of them were English teachers, so they were very instrumental in my composition background. Things that we hear often on this panel. She was one that encouraged me to write for the Edison Eagle newspaper, and do things that I had never thought to do. I played sports. Basically a pretty good kid. Scared dad at home. The structure at home kept me straight. When I did get in trouble, this is around the time that hip hop is really becoming popular. My problems at school were making drum beats on desks and tables. That would get me in trouble a little bit. So, but when I got home and everything got straightened out. So, but that happened in 8th and 9th grade. Also in 7th grade, my first experience with a male black teacher, Mr. Swagger, gym teacher at Edison. Very positive, very encouraging when it came to playing basketball, playing sports. So really appreciative of the guidance that he provided. And again, Dr. Peterson in high school years, also Gary Bender was a mentor. He's a baseball coach. I played baseball with him, and Duncan Reed was also there as well, counselor, basketball coach. So positive experience overall for me, 7 through 12. That's about it.
Ty Lewis. So I moved up to Rock Island my 8th grade year. And before I even talk about my experiences, I think, you know, for me looking back, the structure at home was always there. And I think, you know, like Carl said, like that kept me straight when I did have issues in the classroom or anything like that. You know, like I said, structure at home was there. You know, my family, I wasn't going to be first gen. My mom graduated from Georgia State. I had an uncle who graduated from University of Georgia. My dad didn't graduate from a college, but, you know, when we're looking at how he treated me and how he raised me, he had high standards. So because he didn't graduate from college, he didn't do that. He had high standards for me. And I think that straightened out a lot of things that happened at school. So when I came up to Rock Island, went to Washington, and I was that black kid that was in the honors classes. You know, I was one of few in the honors classes, AP classes in high school as well. And, you know, the standards were high. You know, I was expected to get A's and B's. C's weren't allowed. If I was playing basketball, I played basketball, I was in the band, marching band. You know, if I was doing that, I had to have A's and B's. I had to have, remember my dad came to every parent-teacher conference night, was there, asking questions, and I think we need a lot of that in our society now. And when I look back at my experiences, that helped me so much, and now I'm able to do a lot of things in my career because of the structure that I had from that. But like I said, my experiences, I was in AP classes, honors classes, and there were a lot of black kids. So for me, as Dr. Granberry kind of mentioned at the beginning, I was kind of that black kid that was whitewashed. You know, I spoke proper English, I was in the band. The only thing that really kept me, I guess, for some of the black kids was I played basketball. So like, oh, okay, he's good enough. He's, you know, kind of that experience where I had a good game my 8th grade year when I moved up. They're like, oh, yeah, he's good. So like, I guess that kind of carried me through my high school career just because like I said, there was not a lot of black kids in my honors classes. We're talking about National Honor Society or graduating top of my class. Like, there was not a black kid. So a lot of them kind of felt like, oh, like he's whitewashed or he's hanging with the white kids, like I said, with the band kids at lunch. So it wasn't the basketball or football kids. So I was kind of like, he's kind of included because he plays basketball. He's kind of included because he, you know, his dad's around. But I think for me, looking at the structure that I had, I think that really is the main thing that I want to carry out today is the structure at home was there. And my, like, you know, and even with my mom, my parents, I was single family household, so I lived with my mom and my grandparents in Georgia, lived with my dad up here. But like I said, he was involved, he was around, he knew my like friends, he knew the teachers that I had, and that made a difference. You know, he high standard, like it wasn't, college wasn't like a choice, it was like, it was a choice, excuse me. It wasn't like an option, like I was going to college. You know, he made that set early. My grandparents, my mom made that set early in my junior high years. So I knew college was gonna be, I was just, well, it was which college? And what's gonna be your degree? That was kind of, the conversation started happening at home. That helped me Have a great college experience and high school experience, just getting involved, like I said, basketball, marching band, National Honor Society, was a student ambassador. But that, all those experiences I enjoyed high school, even though like I was, I think that it allowed me to be with different, backgrounds. So I was in the AP honors classes, I was with a lot of, white counterparts and white teachers. But that allowed me to be able to interact with different crowds. And I had basketball, I had marching band, I had guitar class, so it allowed me to talk to different people. But I think to just close it out, the structure on it was there. And that was the main thing that kept it straight. Like if I had a bad grade and something happened, it was, you need to fix that. So.
Thank you. Lonnie Westerfield, so I'm heading into high school, junior high school. And I'm gonna keep it honest with you, linesman, because I'm okay who I am today. Right? So now, once again, my entrepreneur stuff kind of rolled. I sold more bubblegum and candy bar. That was kind of going up, so that was on the rise. So I'm heading into junior high and going to high school. So we're talking about our mid-80s, we're talking about 85. So historically in the black community, a lot of things changed in 85. So what I tell people, I tell kids that I do today, I've witnessed a lot of things. Everything still was around me was black. Everything, even here in the Quad Cities. So I'm thankful that my teacher was black. I went to every junior high school in the Quad City for a couple of reasons. Well, I didn't make it out of high school at all. So as I transferred over to my junior high school sports, I was a wrestler. I was all-state wrestler, I was a boxer. We had a gentleman named Fino Pena. Michael and all of the top boxers came in. I was in the middle of that. That's what I did. That was my sport. I had the jacket with the pins on it back in the days. Once again, I needed a little attention. I got a little attention from my sports. I used to periodically just skip school. I just walk out and go. So I was raised with 13 in our family, but I was the only one out of 13. So my mom was working third shift, so she couldn't keep an eye on me. I had a southern family, no education. Education was nothing to do with in our home. Last thing that we thought about was education. My mom didn't have the education. My father didn't have the education. They came from down south. They worked in factories, and that's what we did. So as I got up into my little junior high school, I had to get into Annie Whitmire Juvenile Center. From Annie Whitmire, I went to Aldora Juvenile Center. Also, one of the places that we used to do it across the bridge, because that Port Rock Island was kind of bad a little bit. I used to go over here to what we call the Hitman Center. That's where I used to party at. So we'll talk a little bit about that, how that changed. As far as my schooling, I was at the class 5. I was there for entertainment purpose, that's it. No other reason. I didn't have no interest in anything that they were teaching me. Like the gentleman said down there, I think that's the problem now we're losing. There's no interest. I had no interest in it. I started reading more when I went to the system because I was forced. That's when I really started reading. Today, I do a lot of reading. I learned that in the system. But we're talking about 85, a lot of things in the school system. I see in 85 in the school system where the transition of blacks to were getting weighted out. For what reason, I don't know. And we didn't have as many black teachers and counselors. They were getting weighted out, and we'll move forward from that, and I'll tell you the rest of the story.
All right, so we're gonna come out of the school, out of the classroom, per se. And now I wanna know about your peers. I want you to think about your friends, K through 12. Did they encourage you to get an education? Or did they discourage you to get an education?
That's I didn't have encouragement. My kind of father. I was the man. At the age of high school, my mom bought me a moped. I didn't even have no license. So, I'm running around the neighborhood and going to school driving a moped. And back in the days, 85 for a black man, young man having a moped, that was kind of different. I was kind of man in the neighborhood, so I was kind of, I think I gave them the opposite encouragement not going to school. So I wish I did have some encouragement, you know. People wanted attention. I mean, and I kind of got attention in the things that I was doing, and I think I did the opposite side of not encouraging them. You know, I have a lot of friends that I'll never say, "Mommy, you gotta go to school." They want kind of skip school and ride with me, but they probably got their buck. But I didn't get a buck. But I was a spoiled child out of 13. My mom gave, I skipped school. I used to watch my wrestling. They were school kid, I gotta go and run. That's the way it was. You know, my mom just didn't know no better. That's what she knew. She thought she was giving me love. You know, and I had no encouragement whatsoever from, at that point in time, coming from the juvenile center, the attention system gave up. They did everything they can. You know, they moved on to what they were doing, and I was strictly blown into my ideal of life. And everything was fine and happy. I was okay, even when I went to the juvenile center. And that became my life. You know, we're talking about 85. We can go back and look at history. A lot of things have changed. We are feeling now in 85. Go farther with that.
So my friend, first off, I was very blessed and fortunate to have, like I said, the structure that I had, and then the upbringing that I did have. So like I said, I was in honors classes, I was in marching band and stuff, so a lot of my friends were top of the class, number 1, number 2, National Honor Society. So the conversations that we were having were, oh, I got accepted to the University of Illinois. Oh, I'm thinking about going to Florida. Oh, I might go to University of Iowa. I think I got a full ride. So I was very fortunate to have friends and peers that were encouraged to go to school. If they weren't, you know, they were going to a trade school. I was in the class, like in the AP classes. They were getting 5s from their APs, their AP exams. They were getting, you know, offers, even in basketball, they were getting offers to go to get full ride in basketball or football. But I think that wasn't the case because, and I could have slipped too, but I think that comes back to the structure I had. My father, especially, making like know who my friends were. Like he made sure he knew, okay, what are they doing? I remember one time I wanted to go to a friend's house and he had to have the mom's number, the address, how you get there, how you get home, who's all gonna be there. And I think that helped me make sure I was just surrounded by the right people and I had the right village.
So, my crew was made up of athletes, break dancers, and cats who love rap music. And we couldn't hang out and go to skate ranch if we didn't take care of things at school. So the structure that Ty talks about, we definitely had that as a group, as a neighborhood. Nothing but positive. I mean, we may have had one cat that was, you know, introducing us to things that we probably shouldn't have been doing at that age. But for the most part, a lot of support, a lot of games, and a lot of walking around the neighborhood with boombox and cardboard. Maybe a couple of the old cats. What that cardboard was for, right? But positive, mostly.
Well, I had a couple of different sets of friends, and I'm gonna say my real friends, you know, at home, you know, after school friends, you know, they weren't as positive with school. You know, that was, you know, just the life, just the environment that we were kind of in at the time. And what saved me from that was, you know, my other world of friends, in addition to, you know, my at-home life. Because, you know, I was raised by grown folks. So with that said, you know, you're not gonna fall too far. And if you do fall, it's not gonna be for too long with that, I'm gonna use the word structure, with that structure. But my real friends, you know, that was, they weren't as positive with school, you know, especially, you know, with with not being able to relate with me being a student athlete, with me being able to excel, in the classroom. So we had to put that aside and still, develop our friendship. So schooling really wasn't the subject at all, with us. It was more so, what are we doing? Where are we going? What's good on that note? So yeah, school wasn't that important in my real world. It was not that important. And all of my peers encouraged that unimportance, if you will. So pretty much that's all I have to say.
I would say my peers definitely encouraged me academically, but only because academics was kind of interwoven with sports and like how successful you be in sports. If I didn't make it to 6 a.m. study hall, which might be super early for kids, I hope they don't do that anymore. 6 a.m. study hall, if I missed those, I was able to run the track meet, which inadvertently affected my teammates, my coach, and all of that. So I feel that there's a good value in that though, where I always made sure I was on my P's and Q's for my teammates, the people who I had dinner with on Thursday nights before meets, the people who I ran 8-9 miles with at a time, Monday through Friday. I don't want to let them down because I knew how hard they worked. So in order to kind of keep them in a place where they felt that I was being reciprocal to the effort that they were putting out, I made sure what I could do to what I could to at least the bare minimum so that their work wasn't in vain and my work wasn't in vain either. So I feel like the academics was kind of interwoven with sports in that world. Like sports being academics are important, but only if you can attend this meet this Friday and the Fridays to come too. There's only a couple people. One of my really, really good friends at the time, his name was Travis. He was like the only other black male who ran cross country and track, which is not really cross country is kind of like one of those where it has a stigma behind it if you're a black male for some reason. So having somebody who shared that with me, like I consider that person a brother, but it was also a person who was always in the streets, always like kind of like doing dirt outside practicing like that. And with that considered, like he was always deemed a bad kid, with not being an adult. He wasn't a bad kid. He was just a product of his environment and a product of what people said. Because as Pete said, unfortunately, like in those teachers' lounges, not all teachers, I don't want to generalize it, but teachers do talk bad about students. And once you put that energy out, that bad energy is felt, whether you verbally or non-verbally push that out. And for Travis, he knew that. He was a smart kid. So when you have bad narratives, when he paints about you, and it's devoid of any good, of course you're going to be kind of like doing things you're not supposed to because your narrative is painted by, I'm a bad kid. So I think that's just important to say about Travis. But even in the stuff that he was doing, even though I would follow him in that, he would even encourage me out of that to be like, no, like this ain't, you ain't supposed to be here, you ain't supposed to be doing this, like, do what you're supposed to do so you can go to this meeting and that. So I feel like that kind of spoke of like, kind of the value that he had towards team as well, that we didn't really apply practices to himself in personal accountability space. So I'd like to definitely say that a lot of my peers definitely can be encouraged to stay in academics just for the sake of like making sure that we all as a team move forward with our like sports goals. And I feel like that energy is kind of what I use as a nonprofit director, being who has a team. So yeah.
As far as peers, I'm actually, I'm like Lonnie, definitely a leader. So if anything happens, it's because of me outside the box. But my friends, I have 3 best friends. They're all different. One of my best friends, he grew up with a 2-parent household. So he looked at life completely different. There were certain things that he didn't have to go through that us in single mother households had to go through. So his life was a little different. His workload was a little bit less like ours. I had a best friend who, mother married to an individual. Him and her would go at it, him and him would go at it. He would run away from home a lot. Stay nights at my house, just get away from home to escape life. So I was, there for him. And then I had a best friend that, single mother, and he just pretty much did whatever. His mom was a young mother, so he kind of got away with a lot of things. So they never persuaded me to do anything wrong. I was always that person, if we were gonna do something crazy, it's probably my idea. But yeah, I had some really good people, but you know, there's situationals had them in different spaces and different places in life.
Start off with the family. My mom didn't play. You know, she was a mother of 9. She was a pastor. You know, my mom would show up at the school and wouldn't call me. And I look at the door, she's sitting there in her Sunday best, staring at me to make sure I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So, and with my family, I've always had support from my family. I never had a best friend, because my family were my best friends, my brothers, you know, my sisters, my nieces and nephews. That's the way I have friends, but my family's always been my best friend. So I've always had support from them, making sure I did the right thing. They will always question me, all of them. They all thought they was my mom and dad. You know, even to the point they were trying to book me. Peers-wise, I never had any issue to go back because of sports. Everybody knew me. You know, I got to hang around all the different gang members, different gangs, GDs, Vice Lords. I walked in the room, they all knew my name. I never had any issues with them, so community-wise, I've always gotten along with everybody. I was one of them kids back in the 90s, you couldn't go to certain parks, because certain sects ran certain parks. But I could go play basketball at all the parks, because everybody knew who I was. So I was never disrespectful to them and what they did, and I never talked down to them about what they were doing with their life. Because in my eyes, I grew up on welfare and I didn't have that much, so only thing that made me different from them was my family and sports. You know, and so I never was influenced to do bad things by people. You know, I always knew how to say no. I was good at telling they were like, man, we're gonna run over here and go blah, blah, blah. Nope, call me when you finish, going home. And they knew that about me. And so it depended on how I felt, who I hung around with. You know, the kids who I knew were going to college, they talked about college, I would go hang around them. The boys who hung out in the streets, I hung around them. The guys who went and got the girls, I would go hang out with them. I had so many different groups that I could go hang out with. I was never labeled to one group. Like I said, my family was always that one group for me. My mom made sure she kept us together, even to her last days and stuff. We was like that. We would beat up at our house, eat catfish dinners. We just had that whole deal, and Mama always wanted us to be better than her. If that makes any sense. She always wanted us to be better than her. You know, she wanted us to be more successful, go to school. My mom dropped out, if I'm right, 6th grade, and I remember she said she was picking cotton in Mississippi. She didn't want that for us. She didn't want us to work the 12, 16 hour shift. She wanted us to be better. So on that point, my family was the best thing I could have ever had. In the street-wise, I didn't have any issues with anybody because I respected everybody and what they did. So on that level, I was good.
Jaron Williams, K through 6. You know, actually I have a lot of fond memories of growing up and having friends and peers, but to answer the question, the answer kind of sad. So in K through 6, I had like 1 or 2 friends who liked reading, liked video games, liked the things that I liked. So we encouraged each other, but in my neighborhood, I had kids who were like a year older or a year younger, so we all went to school together. And we played. As much as I love reading, I love being outside, I love playing, but no, they didn't encourage school at all. So I don't remember feeling discouraged by that. I just didn't feel connected to them on a certain level because I wasn't ashamed or embarrassed about reading, but I also knew that made things a little awkward for me. And so, like I said, when I got to junior high, I didn't want to walk apart from the cool kids. So I made some different choices. Obviously, the people I hung with in junior high, especially in 7th grade, did not encourage school. And that's unfortunate because I'm sure a few of them didn't finish school. And I was still able to kind of navigate that. When I got to high school, my first almost 3 years, I don't recall ever being around people who were concerned about academic success. We were going to finish school and whatever happened really was the mindset. And so my junior year, when I kind of developed into this track athlete and we happened to win state, I know my senior year, most of my teammates, we really did encourage each other academically because we realized there was an opportunity for us after high school if we chose to pursue that. So, but those conversations were happening in almost anywhere from K through 11, which is really unfortunate. So.
Okay, so now we're going to get into the part as far as what does the community, the parents, and the teachers need to know. Because at this moment in time, we do have a lot of young African American males, K through 12, who are struggling, who are not making it, not taking school seriously, not seeing the value in school or in education. And so, what advice and or tips for young African, I'm sorry, I gotta stop breathing just for a moment. Mr. Lawrence, some of us teachers don't hang out in the teacher's lounge. We all don't go in there. I just had to say that, because we all don't. No. All of us don't participate in that conversation.
Yes, ma'am.
We may hear it, but we keep moving,
Okay, yes,
okay? Yeah, okay.
So it's a thing, but.
It happens, but not all of us do that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so, back on task. What advice and or tips for young African American males attending K through 12 schools, from the 5-year-old black boy to the 18-year-old young man? That's what I want you to think about. What advice would you give their parents? What advice would you give their teachers? What advice would you give the entire community as far as how we can help these young people? And we'll go ahead and start at that end with you, Jaron.
Jaron Williams, as someone who teaches in the community school district, I teach freshmen. So if I taught elementary school, the conversations that I have with 9th graders that I would have with kindergartners is, never be ashamed of whatever it is that you're interested in, as long as it's school appropriate. So somebody like me who enjoyed reading, it would have been nice for me to be able to have conversations with teachers or peers who are like, hey, I'm reading this, if you like a certain type of movie, a certain type of video game, something like that. Encouraging that love of learning early in life and making sure that young people don't feel embarrassed by that. I'm not trying to cast aspersions or anything like that, but I just think that, if that isn't learned early, it's really hard to encourage people to enjoy reading later in life. It just is. So when I see students, when they get to the 9th grade, it's really unfortunate that the struggle is that. So find your joy, find encouragement, be okay with whoever you are, find your tribe. Talking to parents, the advice I would give to parents is for real, be involved with your child's education. And what I mean by that is depending on your work situation, your living situation, but checking in with teachers and letting teachers know that you are invested in your child. So, sometimes it's hard, depending on the experience that the parent had when they were a student, school may not have been welcoming, and they held on to that. So while they want better for their children and they send their children to school, sometimes they're like, well, I don't want to talk to your teacher, and I bet not hear that you got kicked out or you get bad grades. It's one of those things where you need to kind of be involved in the conversation before it goes too bad one way, because I'm not saying it's too late, but it almost feels like that. So that as a parent, you're feeling put upon and overwhelmed, and these young people are feeling put upon and overwhelmed. So being actively engaged in the education, I think, is really important. So, and all the other stuff is secondary. I would also say, though, encourage young people to get involved. School doesn't suck, in my opinion, if you're involved. It could be in choir, it could be in band, and we don't see a lot of that. We also don't hear about a lot of that. So, because you don't hear that, it's one of those things, well, black kids don't do that, so you're not going to do that. you know, if you get that experience early on, I think it makes a difference. And so I think learning looks different for different people, but if the experience is positive, then, I think that goes with feeling welcome in a building. But when you're not involved in anything, it's really hard to feel connected. And so it's just like school is a job that you don't want to do, if that makes sense. So parents be engaged, involved, young people early on, find your tribe. If you're an athlete, find books about sports. It's not impossible to develop things that help you with literacy, with school, that give you options other than only seeing athletes, and there's nothing wrong with that. So.
With the parents, I worked juvie for a long time, and so I got to see the bad side of a lot of parenting and the effects of not giving your child that attention that your child needs, and the effects that it have on that kid. Even if they're not bad, they don't go search for attention, and they find out that they get that attention from being bad. So when I tell parents, be involved in your child's life at every point. You know, like what he said with the schools, be involved with the schools, talk to the teachers, be involved in what your child is doing on social media, be involved with who your child friends are, who they hanging out with. Want your child to be better than you. You know, you want your kid to move to that next level and do something better. If you got your bachelor's, you want your child to have a master's. Stay positive with your kid. And one thing about my mom and like all the kids who, like I say, I don't want to call them bad because they got in trouble and stuff, they love coming over to my house, and I never understood why. They told me one day that your mama don't play this, you know, she got structure. They didn't have any structure in their life. So coming to my house, they enjoyed my mama telling them, "No, y'all ain't doing that. Where y'all going?" You know, and all that stuff. They enjoyed hearing her say that because they wanted that structure in their life. They want the structure. They want that shows that you care. If you give them structure in their life and things, and put people around you who got more than you. Hang out with the kids who want to go to college. Hang out with the kids who have goals. I enjoy talking to them kids coming up because they made me want things. So I got $100. I'm gonna hang out with somebody who got $300. Tell me how you got that $300 in a positive way. You know, look to try to make your life better every day. You know, your environment around you might not be that well growing up, but you're not gonna be in the environment forever, and you can change your life. Remember that. As a young black male that's coming up, you have control over who you become, not your friends, not anybody else around you. It's your circle, man. You can pick the circle that you hang around with. You can pick the circle that you want to be. So if you decide to be this person over here, remember you made that choice. But you can always be better and do something better. Want better for yourself. If you don't like the house you grew up in, tell yourself when you grow up, you're going to have a better house, and start making that plan on how you're going to get that better house. Want better for yourself. Don't settle for what you see and think, oh, well, everybody else in the neighborhood living like this, I'm going to live like this too, ain't nothing wrong with it. No, want better for yourself. I want to be the president.
My name is Keith Lawrence. And to the young African American males, to be honest with you, something that I begin to do is I make videos and I write my notes, to kind of be able to reflect on your life in certain ages. So if you begin to write the vision, make it plain now, understanding who you want to be, try everything out to really understand who you are, try to go outside the box of what's around you. It may be difficult, but want to be that unique individual, want to be different. As far as to the parents, understand what your child's love language is. So that way you can properly communicate with the schools and with the teachers on how your child learns, how your child receives information and different things like that. Because the more connected you are with your children, the more you can be connected with the school, because at the end of the day, it's in a community. It's all a community. So when your child is flourishing at home, your child is flourishing at school. Everybody's working hand in hand. As far as like the community, just to bring back things that we, no longer have. To be able to, I know Ashley himself, buying up the block in the African American community. So we're able to put the money back into the community, because most of these individuals, what they're doing is they're listening to rap, they're listening to different things, they're seeing the people that are successful in their neighborhoods who don't live the proper way, who are doing things illegally. So if we're able to put money in their pockets at an early age, and we're able to bring businesses back and flood back into the city, then that'll help, because most people are doing this because of the lack of money, because of the lack of attention at home. So if we can all just work together, we're good.
I have to say with that too, being somebody who does rap as a page, you could be a rapper. It's certain. There's nuance to it. I'm just listening to Brother Man. No, but if advice that's student-centered for parents, I'm not gonna say anything different than what my Uncle Tracy said. But being somebody who worked in behavior schools for like 6-7 years and kind of like seeing like the heartbreak that students have that they probably don't like show, like on an obvious level, like you gotta be involved. Like for me, that's just a non-negotiable. You just gotta be involved. Like you can't make excuses for it. Like and it's one of those things where like there's an understanding. Yes, you work a lot. Yes, you have this going on. Yes, you have your own narrative. But like when you bring kids to this world, like I'm sorry, that's your job. Inadvertently, you signed up for it without signing up for it. You gotta be involved. You have to. Like that's just. I don't know what to say besides that. You just have to be involved. I've just seen too many bad cases of like what not being involved does in the long runs and what that does to a kid. Like it's hard work, but you signed up for bringing a human being into this world. But you gotta be involved. Just in the sense too of like and being involved and just like knowing what your son or daughter's likes are in school, how they like school that day. Also figuring out how you can advocate for them. If I didn't have my mom advocating for me when I had a teacher not let me take a book test and use a book, like all the other students use a book, I probably would fail that class. But she stepped in there and said, like, no, you're not going to do that. You got to advocate for your students because for me, being somebody who I only talk from experience of things that I've seen. I don't talk about anything from generalization. Nothing against the generalization, so I hope you don't take it that way. But like I've just seen too many cases where certain people who work in the school district who haven't acknowledged their privilege, acknowledged their own ego, or acknowledged their desire for power, like set students up for the worst, and they're able to do what they do to set students up for the worst because the parents don't know what questions to ask. To just say, okay, you're gonna do this, okay, ask questions, be involved. You have to be involved. Absolutely have to. Like that's just non-negotiable. But for teachers, I think just being okay, being creative, being okay, like being an educator or a teacher. Mind you, this comes out of my own philosophy of being somebody who is involved in educational traditional sense. For me, like the teachers I talked about who didn't set up good spaces for me where I felt safe, they did their job they did their job on paper the right way. They did what they were supposed to do as a teacher, but they didn't think as an educator, think holistically about human beings. I think about Carl said and how he kicked out the pass for tapping pencils against desks. For me as an educator, I'll be like, okay, that's not appropriate now, but how can I use that to further teach this lesson that I want to learn and use that to kind of like take something that he likes, an interest, to kind of like interlock over to what I do, be creative, and be patient too. Be patient.
Ashley Harris. The advice that I would give to teachers is just to keep showing up to work every day. That's all the advice that I have for them, because young black males, our problems go deeper than a good teacher or a bad teacher. Our problems go a lot deeper than that. So only thing I would say to teachers is just keep going to work every day. Now, for the parents, I don't want to sit here and waste time and load up a lot of advice in our current state. I'm not going to give a lot of advice that we're not equipped, we're not able to handle, we're not able to utilize. So I'm just going to keep it simple. One is recognize the talents of your kids, figure it out. Find out what your child is good at. If you are a parent and you don't know what your child is good at other than eating, that is an issue. And that has nothing to do with schooling. You know, that's just proper parenting. Figure out what your child's good at. Figure out what they're bad at. If you're feeling froggy enough, try to improve on that. You know, to teach them to work on their left. Teach them different skills that they'll get from that. Man, you know, I was bad at that, but my mom wanted me to work on that. They applied that with different things in life. You know, that's continuing education. That's the ability to learn. That's how I judge intelligence. Not about what you know, just your ability and willingness to learn. What I would say now for the biggest part of my answer is what the community can do. What the community can do is set a learning environment, to reestablish a learning environment. Right now, we are completely service-based. Right now, our children and our parents see hopelessness. All it is organizations to where they can get rent assistance, to where they can get a link card, things of that nature. Those things help us, but they don't really help us. And we're still left in a hopeless situation. And when that comes about, then we lack confidence. Our parents lack confidence. And it don't matter if you have been getting straight A's in school, with the lack there of confidence, you're gonna be in some deep water. So it's deeper things that the community can do. I do know that as a community, as parents, we need to cut down on the distraction. Cut down on the distraction. Now, we have always had influential music, but the difference between now and then is now it's going unregulated. It's going unparented. Now, back in the day, our influential music, it was compartmentalized in entertainment. It was strictly entertainment. We had adults in our lives to let us know that wasn't real life. Now it's a way of life. Now we're taking notes on how to live our life. We need to cut down on the distraction that our music is causing us, because it's a constant drip that we don't have the schooling or the structure in our lives to go against right now. And right now, that's one thing that's eating us alive. I wish I had time to speak more.
I think each one of my brothers stated effective ways for parents to be involved. Participation is the common theme that I'm hearing, and finding a way to recognize the talents in your child and to cultivate that talent is very important. Participate, and if you're unable to participate, try to get a family member that will help you with that. Going to the school, checking homework, just general follow-up, right? Set a standard. Something as simple as setting a standard and communicating over and over the standard is the standard. And if you fall short, accept those results and adjust and improve. For the student, it's very important, as we all know. This junior high school timeline flies by. And the sooner you realize that you are and can affect your future, the decisions that you make and how you behave and what you do in school directly impacts your future, the better off you will be. You have to take it serious. You have to want more for yourself. One of the brothers, I think it was Aubrey, want more for yourself. That was spot on. So they hit those 2 points very well, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on those. I'd like to talk to the educators. We need to start thinking outside the box on how to reach these kids. Different methods. Methods like, is everyone familiar with the HBO series The Wire? Remember when they had the class period where they had some challenge, I won't say trouble, I'll say challenge students. They collected those challenge students and they had an outside police officer or professional come in and kind of mentor them through and talk to them about some of their challenges. ideas like that. I don't know, is Rocky doing something like that? Is Edison Jr. or Washington doing anything similar? Maybe that's a tool we can use. And then music was brought up. And I've long wondered why we don't have like a music theory class in the high school for non-traditional musicians. I'm a non-traditional musician. So is he. I'm a DJ. I can't read sheet music, but I can tell you what sounds good and how they mix together. What about a music theory class? Because we have, let's pay attention to our demographic, right? We have a large number of us and we're into music and dance. Let's offer something different at the high school level. It works for Minneapolis, Stokely, then Condition. His career started in high school. Maybe that's an effective way to reach more kids and get them involved in other things and get them back on the path they should be on, offering things like that. I know Stokely made the comment that he had to stay in a lane in order to participate in the music program, so he benefited from it in other classes. Just an idea for educators.
I'll start with the parents. Like all the brothers here said, the main word that I heard was participate. You gotta be in your kid's life. You have to. So for all the parents that are gonna be listening or that are here, you gotta be in your kid's life. They talk about talent. Get your kid involved in activities. Let them try it all. Let them go in the band. Let them go play football. Let them do basketball, soccer, swimming. I remember doing all those things, taking swim lessons, I did tennis lessons, I did golf, I did bowling, I did basketball, I was in the band, I did choir for a while. From there, I found out what I was good at. My parents realized that. Oh, you like band a little bit more. Oh, you like basketball more. Oh, you like business. You like entrepreneurship. But I wouldn't have known that if I didn't try a lot of these activities. So you gotta get your kids involved. And I think that time with the community, allowing some of these parents, right, that it's a burden, how can we help these kids get involved in sports, activities, getting an instrument, getting the right shoes, the right equipment. The community can come together to provide those things so that all the kids can try some of this. They might not like it, right? Some things that I didn't like, right? I don't like swimming, but I know how to swim now. I didn't enjoy tennis, but I know how to play it. I still play it, but you gotta get your kid involved. And from that, right, I've met so many people who do that, right? Not just Black, right? White, Asian, Mexican, I met so many people because I was involved in so many different activities. So now I can talk to different people and know their lingo, right? How different people talk, how they interact. And that's helping me now in my career field and just in life. So I think, for the parents, get your kid involved. If you don't know how, like Carl said, find a family member, find a community member, ask, go on Facebook, hey, how can I get my kid involved more and stuff? Ask questions. That's one thing that my parents always told me, ask. The worst they can say is no. And if they do say no, they might know someone else that, hey, I said no for me, but let me talk to somebody else. For the teachers, it just comes down to just love. A lot of kids, we talked about it a lot here. A lot of kids don't have that structure at home. They don't have that attention that they need. So sometimes it's going to take a little time to work with some of the kids, right? But they need to feel loved. They need to know that you're there. Some teachers, you don't know what's going on at home. You might think you know, but you don't know. You don't know what happened 5 years ago, traumas that have been happening over and over in some of the kids' lives. Just be patient. Be patient, just love them for who they are. Get to know them, right? The thing I always do is, and mom and dad always said it, but a closed mouth never gets fed. So if you don't ask questions, if you don't get to know the kid, get to know their parent, right? You're never gonna know. And that statement goes with the sports. if you don't get your kid involved or ask questions to the coach, hey, how did he do? What did he like? What's going on? Like, we're not gonna know. So, you know, the parents, teachers, community, get involved, ask questions, and just love on each other, because we need that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate all you guys' comments. Now, this is the topic side, since we out of school and stuff. Well, I give you the advice that I'm gonna give you, personal self. It's, we was telling you about the road, how the things that I was doing, so and so, and I went to juvenile. I wouldn't dare still do it. I have a 17-year-old kid. I think he's so good it scares me. I can get on there and still say thank you. So something happened, right? Something changed over. Okay. I'm a successful entrepreneur, but we're going to get in and talk to you guys. I'm going to share something with you. There's nothing's going to change unless you begin to know who you are. School system is not going to let you know who you are. You're going to, I'm personally myself, I told you I dropped out of school and all this and that. I read every day. See, my circle's going around. Every day I read. I read something about my culture. I read something about who I am. I appreciate what I am. I'm a free man, and what you need to do, something that school's not gonna get. It's easy for us to say, right? You go home and you teach your kids about themselves, but if you don't know how you're gonna teach something. Remember I was telling you about 85 something detriment we having? So what happened was we had drugs and alcohol involved in the community, took all the fathers, but some of them are getting out now. So now we're left in a home with single parent families, and they're raising kids. We wonder what happened in the school system, why these kids are the way they are. We have built a system for that. So now we go back to the school system that has built the same system to put the kids where they're at, and we're relying on them to take care of our kids. It'll never work, it hasn't worked. So what we need to do, we need independent people, ask myself, when your kids get out, to grow the kids up, to teach them that. Individual black programs. So we haven't had any true leaders since 1968. Do you know how long that is? And then we tell you to go home and say, hey, if you teach your kids this, how are you going to teach it? You got to know something to teach them. You know, you got single parents working 16-hour, 12-hour shifts, and then we got to do homework with a kid, then we got to cook dinner, then we got to go to work. I could not do that job. So what we need to do is know who you are as a culture. It's been hidden from you for thousands of years. You have to find out who you are so you can appreciate who you are. I tell my kids one thing. I tell them all the time. I have a youth program out there with hundreds of kids every week. And I've been doing this for 8 years. I have a youth center right here that the one I used to party just skip school. So what I'm gonna try to tell you something here. I'll tell kids here, and I'm gonna tell everybody here, if you look around, no matter where you go, there's only one of me and there's only one of you. Everybody has a value. And you have to find what your value. You can't beat me, so don't even try it. He only made one of me. I can't beat you, I can't beat you. You have to let your kids know that they're special. It's only one of them. That's a pretty unique thing. He's here for a reason. You have to find out what he is. I don't know if he's going to be a welder. I don't know what he's going to be, but he can't be me. So don't be trying to be me, don't be trying to be him. He can't be. He only can be him. You have to find out who he is. And we need independent programs by black people. I have a program here, I can't even find enough coaching, so I don't want to hear about all this and that. I'm this far in leading the program. Do you understand? The hours I put in, I'm this far. This far. I can close it up tomorrow. So we all sit around here, I don't even have enough coaches. I'm coaching 3 teams. I got 10 other teams that want me to help them. I got 10 other people that want teams. I don't have enough. I can't do it. I'm tired. I get weary. Black men has to step up. Can't talk about it. Gotta step up. Can't just go to work and take care of your family, man. If I can go to work and just take care of my family, I'll be fine. I'll be like every tired every weekend on the tournaments. I don't, I can go on and on. I gotta go. So we go. That's my part.
All right, that does conclude the question. I did have more questions, but we don't have more time. But just having this discussion tonight, I can see it in all of you, the little things that you're passionate about, that you want more time to talk about, that you want to get involved in, which is awesome. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm trying to start a movement to help our kids. And the only way we are really truly gonna be able to help our kids is to improve our community. The community will feed, the positive energy that goes into the community will feed into the parents will feed it into their children. And that will come into our schools. And then they will be able to excel and become everything that they were meant to be. So, and as far as young black males, they are a mystery. And to be honest with you, most may not admit it, but I done sat at enough tables with just women. Black men are still a mystery. We need you. We need you more than you realize. Our kids need you. Our community needs you. I don't know if the black male is asleep. I don't know if he's tired. I don't know if he's confused. I don't know if he just really doesn't know what to do. And I am married, so me and my husband have this conversation on a pretty regular basis. And he has clarified for me that a woman cannot call men to the table. For whatever reason, y'all won't answer the call. So it may be time for black men to call black men to the table, because our kids are in trouble.